He is multi-time Supercross champion, motocross champion. He's just a legend in the sport. Always look forward to getting this man on the show. It's Rick Johnson. What's up, RJ? How are you, man?
What's happening, Mathis? Just doing my thing in SoCal. It's going to be hot this weekend for Paula, buddy.
Is it really? Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
It's what's already over 90 today. So it's been cold for the past couple of weeks, and then today it jumped up. So the boys better be in shape.
Yeah, really, right? I bet. I mean, Paula, I had somebody DM me and tell me how smooth Paula was, and I'm like, you haven't been there for a national, man. It still gets plenty rough. Like, it's maybe not Glen Helen rough. Maybe it's hard to beat that, but it's damn rough.
Well, it's a different kind of rough. It's the same kind of stuff. It's got that gravel. It used to be a gravel pit. I remember when Ryan Willett actually started it. I was with part of the negotiations with the Paula Indian tribe regarding that place and how it all transformed into what it is now. But they brought in other dirt and. But it's wicked. It's a wicked track because it's really fast and it gets those real square edge, similar to Glen Helen.
Right.
That just some of the crashes are unbelievable. I mean, the guys they get high-sided and things like that. So really fast. It's going to be an exciting race. It
will be. Hey, what's going on with you these days? I see you and Mike Webb are busy guys. What's going on with Rick Johnson?
Well, yeah. So here's what's happened with Rick Johnson. So I got to go in third person. Well, what Rick Johnson is doing.
Well, Rick Johnson is.
No, so obviously a lot of people know that I've been training military for a few years, and so I take these guys who are unbelievable athletes, unbelievable, smart, and they're killers. I mean, they're the best of the best of the best. So we've worked with the Allied Special Forces, the American Special Forces, across the board. And for a long time, I had a motorcycle class with them. And I just saw how much these guys who have seen so many dark things in their life, what riding a motorcycle does for them, you know. And you hear them, they're like little kids like me when I was 10 going, man, did you see me jump? I was like, I had to be this high. And I'm going, you know, so I'm not just a freak in thinking that motorcycles transform you. There's something special about riding a motorcycle. And so with my hand, with with all my injuries and shit like that, I really don't enjoy going to the track just because it gets rougher and rougher, and the goal is to go faster and faster and faster. But when you go out and trail ride, or if you go on an adventure bike, it's more just about the whole thing. And so when I rode across the country with my dad's ashes to Daytona last year, I really learned something that when you're on a motorcycle, life is different. Like if I drove a car across there, I would be falling asleep. I'd just be, but I never even came close to falling asleep, even though I had a 14-hour day the second day from El Paso to past Houston, because I had to think.
Yep.
And every time you go through a weather zone, it gets a little hotter, a little colder, or rain, or a smell, or you go through an orange grove, you smell the trees, whatever it is, you feel the senses keep you alive. And so in doing that, I want to give all these things that I've learned over the years, not just to pros to go faster, but for the average guy to go ride. So we've started a dual sport and adventure bike school because everyone's doing it, and I think it's awesome. What Stanton's doing up in Michigan, badass. I want to go. I want to go through the hills of Michigan with him. I talked to Davey Coombs today, said how much he loved it.
Right.
The different things that people do, I think it's good that they go to all of them. But what I want to do is do something along the lines of education more than the experience, so that when you leave a better rider. And that's some of the guys that I know that have ridden for years, but when I get behind them on the highway, they scare the shit out of me because they don't know where the apex is. They've come in too early. They're missing the apex. They're pushing their way out. They're almost getting hit by cars and stuff like that. So it's a combination of taking the road racing skills that I've learned, the on-road driving schools that I've learned, and then also the motorcycle stuff along with it, and giving it back to the average guy.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah, and Mike Webb helps you promote it and that kind of stuff?
Well, so I love Mike. I love Mike and Tom and the whole family. I mean, so I've known them since I was like 12 years old. They were in the cool part of Saddleback. They parked down at the bottom with Rick Mackey and Jody Weisel and all the L.A. crew, and I was up in the San Diego crew. But I've always known Mike, and I've always had great respect for him when he would do the stories about me when I was racing motocross and stuff like that. But the way he handled me coming to Suzuki to work with Blake Baggett, I had nothing but respect. He just called me up and said, "Hey, RJ, I have a favor." because Blake didn't qualify for the first Supercross round because he was terrible at starts and blah, blah, blah. He says, can you come out and maybe give Blake a couple tips on that? And I'm like, sure. It wasn't, hey, can I hire you? Can I do this? Hey, as a friend, can you come out and maybe help this guy out?
Right.
So when I went out there, I said, can I give him a couple, I was watching him ride, can I give him a couple thoughts? And I looked at his mom because, parents are very involved nowadays. And I said, are you okay with me talking to your son? And she's like, sure. So I talked about, the clutch and this and that. It worked out great, and then that worked into my relationship with Blake Baggett. But working with Mike, he's just got a great temperament, and he's a very giving person. So I've hired him over the past couple of years when he left Suzuki as one of my instructors with the Special Forces guys.
Oh, okay.
We get along great, role reversal, but when we're around each other, it's not like who's the boss and who's doing this. It was really great. And just the other day, we were doing a school for the California Rangers, the guys that are out there, and T. Wells and Gorman and all the different
chasing
places.
Chasing people around.
And we also have the guys that are in part of the weed enforcement. So the guys that put up random shit out in the hills and stuff like that. So just teaching these guys how to be better, and I enjoy it. Some people don't. I mean, sometimes it's hard to train people that don't listen and don't try, and it's really rewarding when people do. But for me, I like the problem child. I'll figure out what you do. If you're used to this, if you're surfing or skateboarding or if you've done nothing, I'll try to figure out how to teach you, and I enjoy that. So I don't mind if I'm taking the slowest guy in the class.
And how can people get a hold of you for this? DM you on Instagram or how?
DM me on Instagram, or you can go to rickyjohnson.com.
Okay.
I'm actually, I know it's hard. I'm like 128 years old right now. At least that's how I feel physically. But I'm like, okay, I'm reading this book called Unfuck Yourself.
I saw that. I saw that on Instagram. Yeah.
And so what it talks about is just that what you are avoiding and stuff like that. And I'm like, so I got to go and I got to learn how to build myself a website. So I have a website. Max Valasakos, who started Supercross.com, set it up for me. But there's nothing there. It's basically you go to rickyjohnson.com. And it's blank. So I'm in the process of doing everything from a YouTube channel, and all that different stuff. But I want to create more just because I dig it to teach people. Yeah,
you've done it for a long time, like you said. So that's right up your alley, right? For the most part. Hey, getting into this motocross season a little bit, like it's a different deal now than when you raced because you had Gainesville smack dab in the middle of Supercross and stuff. So I don't even know, like if you're coming in as Cooper Webb or Zach Osborne, the defending champion, and relating it to you a little bit, how important was it to get – it's a long series, as we know. How important was it to get off to a great start right away? Or for you, was it like, Gainesville's in the middle of Supercross, I just want to kind of survive that, and I'll put my national push on later? Or were you like, no, brand new series, brand new deal, I gotta put the smackdown on these guys right away? How important was it to you?
It was very important. Well, for one, I didn't want to lose anywhere. Like Paris Supercross, you were guaranteed your prize money and this and that. But I didn't want to give someone the opportunity to say they beat me. So I would crush myself. And I remember Erica Bors used to get so frustrated. He's like, "Why do you try so hard? You've already got your start money." I'm like, "I'm not giving you the opportunity to run around and tell your friends you whipped my ass. No, it ain't happening." So for me, you had to be the alpha male all the time, and you had to establish that you're not playing. But if you came out and you were off that day, what I learned early is that having that alpha male also cost me some championships. Trying to be too I am woman, hear me roar bullshit. Sometimes you have to go, you know what, you're having a bad day. A top 5 is a win. Don't walk away with 10th or 11th or whatever. So if you were sick, overtrained, or your bike setup was off, because here's the thing is that you go out and you do all your testing and you're riding and you think, I got it. But you always seem to go another 5% faster. It never fails, Supercross or outdoors. I was always like, one setting off too soft. Well, that's what it was. Yeah,
82, your famous 82 championship, right? I mean, that was as a result of you pushing too hard, right? So
the famous 82 championship that Donnie Hansen got.
Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was yours, and that was kind of one of those deals where if you had been a bit smarter, you'd be one more championship in your legendary career. You know, so
well, absolutely. But you know what though, that race and that failure is what made me was a part of what made me who I am,
right.
and being smarter. And because honestly, I think if I would have won that championship at the age that I was and the arrogance that I had and all the different stuff, I would have. It would have been bad. I would have either killed myself or gone some. Who knows what would have happened? but I truly look at that failure as a blessing, even though it does hurt.
Yeah,
it hurts a lot.
Right.
You know, to let everybody down the way I did, and it was just me. But you know, it made me smarter and better.
702-586-7857. We got a couple lines open. If you want to talk to Rick Johnson, give us a call. And we got a few people on hold already, RJ, that want to talk to you. Yeah, I mean, Bradshaw's been in this studio and told the famous story of when he beat you at Osaka, and you said, you fucked up now. And he was like, what? You're like, everyone's going to expect you to win every time out. And he was like, it's still stuck with him to this day. You know, like you scared the hell out of this kid when he beat you.
Well, no, and so the funny thing was on that race, and he won it. He won it fair and square. The kid was riding phenomenal.
Right.
But so I literally, like the first couple laps, because Damon, my dad, used to paint his helmets. I would stay at his house in North Carolina, and I mean, I've known him the whole time. And so I'm like, I'm following him. I'm going, yeah, let's just, let's let him get into the groove and stuff like that, and then I'll pass him. I'll beat him. Then all of a sudden it started rutting up, and I'm like, son of a bitch, I can't find a way around him.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's nowhere to go to get a run on him because he was hauling ass. I would have had to move him out of the way, but I couldn't get to the inside to move him out of the way. So I tried to hit him one time.
Yep.
Just straight from the back to bam, try to knock him out of the rut. Well, that tucked my front wheel, and I went down. I caught him again, and then he beat me. And I'm like, that's what I said to him. I probably shouldn't have been such a dick. I probably should have said, hey, congratulations, good job, you did a great job. But my ego had to jump in there and be an asshole.
You scarred him.
Yeah, scarred for life.
He's told the story over and over. He's just like, the whole time from when I was 16. Everybody's like,
I won.
Yeah,
really.
you did.
It worked.
That's funny. Look, I'm in the in motocross media. Obviously, RJ, I talk about this shit. I write about this shit all the time. Eli Tomac, look, he's one of the greatest all times. He's creeping up on a lot of passing you in some record books lately. But look, the last two series, last Outdoors and this Supercross series, he hasn't been as dominant. He's been not in the title fight when it comes to the last race. He's won some races, which is awesome, but he's not the same guy. I just have a theory hey, he's 28. He's a new dad, going to be a second kid on the way. And you RJ, as you know, you got to be on the tip of that spear 105% every single day if you want to be the best. And my whole theory is look, maybe he's just not doing as much as he used to do. He's 28. He's got his records, right? He's got his money, all of that stuff. He's certainly very, very good, but he's not as good as he used to be. And what do you think about my theory, and what do you think could be going on with him?
Oh man, that's a wow! You throw me right in there. Huh?
Well, I mean, you were in that spot.
I think a couple things. One is, I think he's and you know what? I wish I was as close to my dad as he was to him. Mm-hmm. But my dad, fortunately for me, was a prick. And so I had to get away from him at a young age. Yep. I just, I would call my dad after a race, and I would get second. I would get second to David Bailey at Axton, all right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
At Axton, at his home track.
Yeah.
And he goes, you know how much fucking money you just lost? I'm like, he goes, what happened? Did your bike break? I'm like, no, Dad, I couldn't pass him. He's like, why not? Did Honda screw with your bike? I'm like, no, he's
David Bailey at his home track. Right.
He never made a mistake. I said, I'm bleeding from my toes to my nipples from eating roost. And he goes, but you realize, and he would read down the thing, you lost this.
Oh,
and I would just go, I go, you know what? I'm done with this. So that's when I pulled out, and I'm like, you're not doing my money anymore. You're not doing this. I got to be my own man. And I said, I need my family to be that. And don't get me wrong, to have John Tomac in your corner, he's just such a badass.
Right.
But on the other hand, it looks. Here's what I think. So I had a similar problem with Sebastian Tortelli, and I think Eli is very similar.
Mm-hmm.
They are the best soldiers you could ever ask for. ever ask for. If you say to Sebastian, go run your face into that wall, it's going to make you a second faster. Boom, he's going to run his face into the wall.
Yeah.
And I think Eli's the same way. But the problem that you have is I had the same thing with Sebastian. After a Millville National, he's out in front, and I'm like, I'm going, oh my God, he's riding his practice lines. And they're getting rougher and rougher, and I'm watching Kevin Windham catch him, and then Ricky catch him, and he comes in and he goes, you need to find me lines. I said, I'll make it fucking simple, bro. I go, do you remember where you went? He goes, yeah. I go any place but where you went. If you went inside, go outside. If you went outside, go inside. If you went middle, go inside or outside.
Yeah.
But don't go where you went. And that's where I see Tomac is that he gets frustrated and he doesn't think for himself.
Mm-hmm.
He's been so coached. I coached him a little bit when he was on 80s, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You tell him, he does it. I
Right.
mean, just boom, just like there's no question. Put your knee behind your ankle a bit, boom, does it.
Yep.
Start this, do this, boom, does it. But when he gets frustrated and the track changes, he doesn't have an answer until after the race, and it's too late. And the thing that Cooper Webb did this year over everybody is, even though he wasn't really, I don't think he was ultimately super trying to adapt, but he adapted to the situation, and was like, okay, well, I need to change maybe a little bit more throttle, maybe a little less throttle, maybe I'll wheel tap these, maybe I'll skip these, maybe I'll jump, double, triple, whatever it is. And he was able to adapt to the situation and come out on top, where you saw Roxon completely fold. He had one game plan, and when it didn't work, he shit the bed. And same thing, I feel the same thing happened with Eli. And but as far as talent, these guys are so phenomenal. In fact, and I got it. Even though I'm bagging on we're bagging on Eli right now, the fact that he's brought riding with not putting your foot down in the corners blows my mind. I watch these guys do this. I'm like, you're not putting your foot out. Holy shit!
Right, yeah. Yeah.
But I understand it because it adds more traction to the bike. It does all these different things. But I'm like, that's some next level shit right there.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick, when you talk about Eli and maybe not having that adaptability late, if you look in years past, it's like he used to be able to do that more. He was always gnarly in the last 5 minutes, and that is what doesn't exist really anymore. I don't remember seeing any of those over the last probably 12 months where he just finds that extra gear. Like you talk about Cooper having the ability to adapt and find those things. Eli seems to have kind of locked in, like you said, on whatever he's doing, he just does that. But he used to kind of do that. Do you think that's just a change in him? Like, again, with the age, with the kid? Because it seemed like he used to be able to kind of pull the trigger late in motos and do some gnarly stuff and some gnarly lines where he doesn't really do that anymore.
Is this Daniel?
Yeah.
Hey, Daniel, by the way,
bro.
you're doing a great fucking job, bro. I love listening to your shit.
Thank you.
I just want to know who I was answering. I agree, yes, but the level of competition has stepped up. Roxon used to be checkers or wreckers. There was no in between. He was either really fast or launched himself, and that was part of the Honda. But the Honda's more rideable bike. It's smoother. It's better. I think the level of competition has raised a lot. I think a lot of the guys, Sexton, I love that kid. I think he's going to be a threat next year, huge. If he gets his cardio down and he gets a little stronger, I don't think Webb's going anywhere. So to answer your question, I agree, but there's only so many tools that you can do, and where Eli was just stronger, and that's where I was. It was hard against Ward and Bailey, but it was easy against guys like Lachine, is to be stronger the last 5, just to be able to hammer it down. And that's the thing that I feel Eli had over everybody, because through his dad, through Rhino, through all the different people that he worked with, that guy, and then he would get up on the podium and I'm watching him, he's nose breathing and barely sweating. I'm like, wow.
You're right about that.
Shape.
Yeah.
But there's only so many tricks to the trade when it comes to how fast they're going now. So I agree with what you're saying, but I think the level of rider has changed.
Like that ability that he had over everybody has just been minimized because everyone else has started to figure out how to get to the checkered flag the same way, so now he can't kind of pull what he used to pull. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Well, you watch. So let's just take a technique that he does with that, keeping his feet on the pitch of the corner. Cooper's awesome at it. A bunch of these other guys are good at it. But if you look at the guys that are up there, the speeds and the hole shots and all the different stuff, he just, if he's not there, if he's not top 5 off the start, which that's what, if I was his coach, I would say, do not think about the whole shot. I don't care about the whole shot. I want you coming out of the first turn in the top 5, because
right.
that's the attitude that I had. Because if I go, well, if I start here on the inside, if I get a good jump, I'll get the whole shot. Or if I start all the way on the outside and get a great jump, I can get the whole shot. But on both of those scenarios, I'm just using far inside and outside as an example. If I miss by a little bit, I'm completely screwed. And it's also kind of the same way with the middle now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So Ricky took my term, condition before position, you know, on the last, it's completely different for the main event hole shot versus the heat race. In the heat race, there's 4 guys that want the hole shot, maybe 4, you know. In the main event, there's 15. You know, they're ready to die for it. And so where you line up for a heat race is different for the main event, and then what's on the other side of the gate where the rut starts and all the different stuff. You need to think about that versus the other. So I'm agreeing with you, Daniel, that in the past he would just pull it out. He would will himself to the front, but now he's not close enough.
Yeah.
He can maybe go 2 seconds a lap faster, but if you're freaking 10 seconds back, who gives a shit?
Right.
You know?
So yeah, good points. No, you're absolutely right.
Sense.
Yeah, for sure. We have John Anderson here from WUSA, RJ in studio. And John, you were saying before we got RJ on, Jett Lawrence personality kind of reminds you of Rick back in the day, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Do you see that as well, Rick?
So you want to hear a great story about Jett Lawrence?
Yeah.
So I was out at Paula, and I'm watching him, and I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan. But I became, and I had this talk with Davey Coombs today. So he's over there, and you know what? I respect the kid because he's got balls. He runs hard. But here's what I like about him is that you have 2 different styles. You have the hardcore, like the hammer guy, more like me, you know, more of just strength and determination. Then you got the style of Bailey. So I'm going back to the 80s, so a lot of your listeners won't understand this. Go to YouTube and watch that shit.
Yeah, just watch it, right, yeah.
So you had two conflicting styles, and as Bailey said, you had a boxer and a slugger. I was a slugger, Bailey was a boxer. But I think that Jett has the right amount of BMX technique like Christian Craig, and also enough of the hammer like the other guys. So I think he uses the both. And so I walked up to him. This is my Jett Lawrence story. I walk up and I go, "Hi, Jett Lawrence. Hey, Jett. I'm Ricky Johnson." I said, "I just want to tell you, I have nothing but respect for you. I appreciate your technique, your style." And then he's like, "Thanks, mate." You know, and then he just starts talking. He doesn't know who the hell I am.
No, there's no chance. Yeah, there's no way.
He has no idea. And O'Mara's over there, and so is Trey Kennard. They go, "Hey, RJ," and the kid doesn't give a shit. You know, 'cause his dad was a kid when I was racing.
Yeah.
So I mean, honestly, I was kind of hoping he would go, "Hey, man, I watched your shit on VHS or whatever," you know, or my dad told me about it or something.
Right, something, right.
But then he started to talk, and so he said, I said, you know, about his ability, and he says, "Yeah, you know, Trey," because Trey's Trey Kennard's the test rider for Honda.
Right.
He goes, "I tried Trey's forks on the outdoors." He goes, "They're a little too stiff, and I can't quite feel the ground through the middle, and so I wanted to change it a little bit and do this and do that." And I was blown away because the terms that he's using, talking about the feel of the front wheel through the middle of the corner and all these different things, at 17, I wasn't there until I had won 4 championships.
Right.
I mean, his ability and all the different stuff. So kudos to Johnny O'Mara, kudos to his dad, and here's what I also like about him is that, you know, he's talking to me about this and that. I said, "Dude, just keep doing what you're doing." He goes, "Yeah, you know, they're telling me." I'm not going to do an Australian accent. Just know that this is him talking. He says, "Yeah." He says, "I was at the last race and everyone's saying do this, do that." And he says, "You know what? Just let me do me. I got this. Let me do me."
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? That's smart because Ricky was that way. You know, just get it close. I got this.
Right.
And I had a couple situations with Roger where I was like off in practice, and he's like, "What do we got to do? We got to change the bike." I'm like, "Bike's perfect." He's like, "But you're 3 seconds off." I'm like, "But I'll go 8 seconds faster in the race." He's like, "There's no way." I'm like, "Yeah,
I'll figure it out." Yeah.
I got it. Carlsbad GP. I know this place better than anybody.
Right.
So I think he could definitely be one of the next great ones. I mean, for him at his age,
Yep.
but as far as the crowd and stuff, he's a kid that digs riding bikes, and so I love watching him.
Hey, Rick, one more question. So, the opposite talk about the sport being so mental, right? With these riders just getting over that extra little edge to say, become a champion. In today's era racer, 450, say, right? Is there any riders out there that you feel like that, and I realize we're all getting older, right? That you could sit down with them for an hour and just talk to them a little bit about, like a mental coach, right? There are mental coaches out there to where you could just talk to them. And if so, who do you think could use the most help, or that you could help?
I think I could help 90% of them for this fact only, is that you have no idea how dark it's going to be at the end of this tunnel. Okay.
Yeah.
I heard a disturbing thing that a kid that I used to train back when he was really young, named Nick Forrest, and he stayed at the Millsaps Academy and did all the different stuff. And he told me the other day that the 3 of his friends that he stayed with there committed suicide. And that's the thing, is that motorcycle racers do not lack commitment. Look at Marty Motes. I mean, we've lost too many people to suicide on this, and I'm not trying to go down. I just want to touch on this, but kids that will bust their ass, break a bone, and still race. Well, look like Cameron McAdoo, how bad he was hurt, and then get up and then race the way he did.
Yeah.
So who would I go? Who would I go after? I go after the one kid that I used to work with as a mini bike kid, is Jason Anderson. Mm-hmm. He's gone back and forth he goes from over aggressive to under aggressive, over and under, and he was that way on mini bikes. I'm like, you don't have to pass 15 guys on one lap.
Yeah.
Just know when the finish line comes and win by 5 bike lengths, and you get the same bonus, so you don't have to go more.
Yeah.
The other thing is that I think these guys are overtrained. I think there's a bunch of these trainers here that just, if I can show you that I can take you to failure, that makes me a good trainer. Bullshit. I think we need to do more relaxing with the guys, more yoga, not hot yoga and crushing yourself. I mean, actually chilling out and relaxing and going to the beach for a day and going surfing, doing something different. I see how many motos that these riders do, and it just blows my mind, because there's very few Ricky Carmichaels that can just burn lap after lap after lap and is going to find success from that. You have to find what makes that rider tick, and if it's having more fun, or if it's pushing more, or if it's negative pressure, or if it's positive pressure. Not all riders are the same. I mean, when you had Bailey, O'Mara, and I under the same tent, we were all completely different animals. Completely. How our mechanics talk to us, how the managers talk to us, how our girlfriends talk to us, everything. We're completely different people, and that's the thing that I feel that we're a little too. Well, this is what success is,
right.
So you got to do it, and I think we need to move away from that.
We got Sam on one. He's been waiting a long time to talk to Rick Johnson. Let's get him on the line. Sam, welcome to the show. What's your question for RJ?
Hi, what's up, guys? Ricky Johnson. I don't know if you remember a track in El Cajon. I don't know what part of El Cajon you grew up in or whatever, but
I knew every square inch of El Cajon.
Yeah, well, there was a track right next to the airport. I want to say around. I used to ride there when I was a kid. I'm only 26, but I would say back in like 03, 04. There was a track right next to the airport, Gillespie Field. I don't know if you know what happened to it, or why it shut down. I don't know. I mean, I was just kind of a long shot. Maybe just wanted to ask if you know.
All right, so that was at the end of my career. I did do a school there, but here's a little history buff for you. That was at Cajon Speedway, not El Cajon Speedway, but Cajon Speedway, where I won my first NASCAR Sportsman Championship. Actually, my first and only. I'm looking at the helmet right now. In 1995, and so that went. So it was in the parking lot of the Roundy Round track that did everything from TT to Demolition Derby to then later stock car Winston West stuff. And then they sold the property. So it was a weird undertaking. Is that the owner, someone, we don't know what happened. We don't know. I'm not going to speculate. Maybe some dirty pool or whatever, but someone showed up at his house. He answered the door, and he was assassinated at his house. And then that property went into whatever, and it's been sold and turned into buildings.
I rode there. I rode there when I worked at KTM. I rode that track a few times. Yeah.
It is flat.
Oh, really?
It was flat as shit.
Yeah, it was for sure. No, absolutely.
One more thing real quick, if you have a chance.
Sure, go ahead, Sam.
1989 Re-Raceables, awesome podcast, by the way.
Thank you.
That Guy Cooper crash. I don't know. I just want to see what Rick thought of that. That was insane.
We did a podcast, RJ, with myself and Wygant called up Stanton about his first ever win in '89 Atlanta. That you were a big part of. Remember the Cooper crash in the rhythm section?
When he went flying into the, so I'll never forget it. Is after the whoops where I fell down and crashed. And then after that, you had to step up, and then like a seat hop, long double, and all of a sudden I just see Guy, just Superman, he seat hopped and he was back about 15 inches too far, and his hands were on, but the commitment to the hands on the bars was unbelievable.
It was
and
rad.
Like for a moment, I became a fan. I'm like, holy shit! I'm looking off as I'm doing right now. I'm looking off to the left, going, "That's gonna freaking hurt."
Oh, and he got up. That's what we were laughing about. He popped right up, got back on the bike.
But did you see the way he walked? Like he broke both of his heels. He's like, "Oh, ouch, 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 ouch."
He was walking on fire.
Phenomenal. Thanks, Sam, for listening to the podcast. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Lloyd.
We were laughing, and Stanton was just saying like he was a little bit scared to ride around Coop at times because he wasn't going to take you out. You just didn't know where he was going to go. Right?
It was so there was Cooper, Magoo, guys like that. You really had to think about what you were doing, because their commitment was no matter how deep you went into the corner,
right, they're
going to go 2 bike lengths further.
Right.
And if you give them 2 inches on the inside, they're coming in. They don't mean to be that big of a dick, but Oh my God, they would hit you.
Yeah. Well, before you came on, we were talking about your impact in the sport and the Supercross and how your personality and how you really kind of started the start of Supercross and how you became such a great champion. And then I was speaking to this guy about something else, so I wanted to get him to call in and talk about meeting you and looking up to you when you were, ruling the sport. So let's welcome on 7-time Supercross champion, Jeremy McGrath. What's up, MC? How are you?
I'm good. What's up, guys? What's up, RJ?
What up, MC?
So,
how you doing?
MC, like we all know the story. Rick helped you get the ride with Honda at the end of '89 or at the end of '90 to get on Mitch's team and all that, and we know that. But also, Jeremy, when I've been doing these stories and going through old cycle newses, I see like you race, C class and B class at Paris and all these places. When do you first meet the Rick Johnson, Jeremy? Like when do you first meet him? Because he was the man, right?
Yeah, it's funny because my career, I wasn't some awesome amateur rider. I didn't even start till I was 14, so I started kind of late. But and then not really riding, let's say Ponca City and Loretta Lynn's, which are the big races where you sort of, if you do well, you become popular, and then you kind of can meet like your heroes like Rick and other guys. I think it was more. I'm not even sure. I think the very first time I ever really met Rick, it was even before I was No Fear sponsored. It was probably around, maybe it was 89. I was riding for Raceway Honda. Like I had a little support deal. I was still just graduating from high school, and it
High
was
Point
around
gear.
the GFI.
Yeah, High Point gear.
Yeah, yeah. It was around the High Point. It was kind of around the High Point gear, and then right around the year in 1989 when we did the GFI series race at Paris.
Okay.
Rick was.
Wait a minute. Let's back it up. We did
wait. Hold on. I'm having a flashback. We did a commercial at Mammoth.
Yes, we did an ad at Mammoth at the last turn, and
right.
you're on the
That
inside,
was
looked like you were going to take me
87.
out.
Yeah, and that was 87. I remember that. I just had a flashback. Yeah.
So you're on Yamaha in '87, Jeremy.
I was, and I was an extra in a commercial for Rick at the time. But there were several of us, right?
Yeah, and I think you even had 125 on your bike.
I did. Yeah, I did. For sure.
So it's like I'm coming around the last turn at Mammoth.
Yeah.
It was a Honda ad, and here's Jeremy on the inside of me, because of course he's on the Yamaha. He has to be one step behind me. It's a Honda ad, and that's what it was.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So how this all came down was, so where I'm not going to say I discovered, but where I saw Jeremy, where he really caught my eye, I'm at the Supercross in San Diego, and I'm watching, because I'd always watched, all the way back when Chicken was running, I always watched the 125 races to go, are they coming up with any creative lines? Because not a lot of the guys I watched, but there was some that I had. And so I think Ty Davis was in front, he was winning, and I'm watching this kid on Team Green with the number 125, and he's just constantly just boom, boom, like clockwork, just smashing guys, moving forward. And that was after that I made the recommendation for Honda for Stanton. So they're like, hey, who do you think might be you might have something here, maybe lightning can strike twice. And I said, watch this McGrath kid, he's phenomenal. And so then we went to Loretta Lynn's. And so they're like, well, we're going to do a factory team. Well, we're not going to do a factory team. And so it's going back and forth. And so I'm like, well, screw it. I'm going to find their number. I'm going to call them. So I called Jack and Ann, talked to them, and they said, well, here's Jeremy's number. Call him. So I called him in his hotel, and I go, hello, Jeremy? And he goes, yeah. And I go, it's Ricky Johnson. He's like, bullshit. Who is this? Am I lying, Jeremy?
No, you're right. You're dead right. I thought it was a joke. And the funniest thing about that was when Ponca City was before Loretta's, and I always rode so bad at Loretta's. I rode like shit there. I just, like, being from California, I would never experience soft, ruddy tracks like that. And it was just like, where? I was fish out of water. But anyways, the previous week at Ponca City, I had a great week. Even in the mud, I won 2 championships in the A class, and I got the overall Grand National Championship that year for Team Green. And then we were at Loretta's. I wasn't having a great week, and then I figured someone was playing a bad joke on me, and it was Rick on the phone, and that was kind of that was the day that changed everything for me.
Now, originally, Jeremy, you thought it was a factory Honda ride, and I think so did you, right, Rick? Like, it was supposed to be factory Honda before Mitch.
It was supposed to be, it was supposed to be a full-on factory Honda deal. So then that's when I talked to Jeremy that day, and I played softball with Jack and Ann, and we went through this whole deal, and then all of a sudden it changed. And let me just tell you, you want to see Jack McGrath pissed off. change it from a full factory Honda deal to a pro circuit deal.
Right.
Jack's like, bullshit, we're not signing a deal for that. I'm like, Jack, it's going to be a factory-supported deal. I think this is a great movie. Bullshit, you said factory team, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's out of my control, Jack.
We want our own box van.
Yeah. And then Mitch tells a story about Jack just being like, we're not riding for you. Like, we're riding for factory Honda. And Mitch was like, no, I don't think so. I think it's a done deal. And Jack was like, no.
You guys also know the famous story before that when I was riding for Honda. I was riding Hondas out of that shop in Paris when I was in high school. And I rode for Pro Circuit on one of those, like, gold rides, where you get, 70% off or 50% off on stuff. And then that was the year, I was like 16 years old. And I was really having a hard time getting my bike set up. And I was like, man, Dad, I think we need to quit Pro Circuit. So that famous story of me going into Mitch's office and my dad made me go by myself. And, like, he goes, all right, well, you want to be a man and quit Pro Circuit? Well, then you go tell Mitch yourself. And I was like, okay. So he made me drive down there, and I got in Mitch's office. And the funny story about that, and Rick knows this story, is when I got in there and I told him I was quitting, he's like, who do you think you are, Rick Johnson? And I was like, wow,
I mean, look, you guys know the stories about Mitch. When I left Mitch's office, one of the things that stuck with me in my head was that comment right there. And the other comment was this. He said, if you leave Pro Circuit, you'll never ride for Pro Circuit again.
Yeah.
And I stuck to my guns, quit riding for him, left his office crying.
Yeah.
And I went home and I was like, oh shit, man, what did I do? And it wasn't. Now fast forward to the stories that we're talking about now.
Right.
This was 10 months later, and here we are. And that was probably why me and my dad were like,
yeah, forget it.
Rick, you said it was a factory ride, and now we're going back to Pro Circuit. So,
but
one of those things, you never say never.
No, that's funny. When you were a kid, Jeremy, going to the stadium, going to Anaheim, going to San Diego, I mean, it didn't. We were talking about this on the show before we got Rick on. It didn't get any fucking cooler than Rick Johnson in Fox gear just dominating Supercross, did it?
Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, the years of again, I was racing BMX pretty steady in all of the country for a lot of time, but I was, I went to the 1981 Super Bowl of motocross at LA Coliseum, and I think Barnett won that night, and I was a little kid and, smelling a two-stroke mix and, all those bikes and then, a little bit later, seeing Rick riding in seeing these guys in the magazines, and then starting to really follow it when Ricky was number 17 on the Yamaha, and then starting to get on factory Honda, and then when he just, in the 86 series, that was just incredible. 86, 87 years. I mean, it was like there's nothing cooler than that. No way.
No, I agree. And there's a photo of RJ. I always thought to myself, the coolest thing, RJ's whole shot at the 500 USGP in 86, Carlsbad. Just coming around flat track in the corner in that gear, RJ, that Pete had made for you that weekend or whatever. That was amazing.
Well, so I would always say I had two perfect hole shots out of my for racing for 100,000 years or whatever. I had two what I would consider perfect hole shots. And MC knows this. When you take off and you throw a knuckleball at least halfway down the front straightaway,
right?
You know what I mean? Where you're just hitting the gears, hitting the clutch, everything perfect, and it just gets quiet. You're just like, did the gate not fall for everybody else? Or, you know what I mean? You have those moments, and I'll never forget. I came around, and all I could hear was the crowd. It was surreal. It was a surreal moment, and kind of a cool thing is that I'm going to be I'm working with Carson City Motorsports up in Carson City, Nevada, and they're the title sponsor for the Hangtown National. So I'm going to throw this invitation to you, Mathis, and to MC, is that I'm the Grand Marshal for the Hangtown National this year, and I'm going to do an adventure bike ride on Friday, just a chill couple-hour ride from Carson City to there, and I want to invite both of you guys to go on it. And today, I sent a text to Jeff Fox, Pete and Greg Fox's dad, and said, hey, I would be honored to have you there, because he did so much for Northern California moto, and Jeff, the old man, always just treated me with great respect. Pete and Greg got a little full of themselves later on in life, but that's a different story. Because they turned it from whatever $1 million into a $100 million company. But their dad always treated me with respect.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. No, that's awesome. Yeah. That's.
I'm with you, Mathis. I think the images of as cool as it was to see you number one, Rick, on a Honda those years. That year where you were number 5 with the all blue Fox gear, racing Supercross with your original bad boy helmet, there's pretty much nothing cooler than that.
Nothing.
I mean,
not much. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. Maybe we're showing our age here, MC, but I'm with you on that. Right. Yeah.
No, I mean, and to say I appreciate it's an understatement. Obviously, I was a fan of Jeremy's from the moment I watched him ride, and this isn't a see who can blow more smoke up each other's ass, but just for what Jeremy did with the sport is that and this is what I've always said about Jimmy Johnson, is that I was pivotal in Jimmy's life, but it was awesome to see him take the legacy that I had and build on it, and make it better. And what Jeremy did with his fashion and style and bringing in 1-800-COLLECT and commercials and Bud Light and the that I was a stuntman on the Bud Light commercial?
No.
So people don't know that. So I was so turnabout's fair play. So when Jeremy was an extra in my commercial, I was an extra in his commercial when he was at Bud Light. So it feels good to to say, well, maybe I raised the bar a little bit, but if you're not a dick and you're not super egotistical, it makes you feel good to see when somebody takes your level and then elevates it. And that to me was cool to watch what Jeremy did, because he was beyond cool.
Yeah, I felt like Jeremy was you, but like on steroids, right? Like a cooler, not cooler, but you know what I mean. Like he took it to the next level. Like he was on Tonight Show. He was on Tonight Show. He was on Jay Leno. It was on Jimmy Fallon or whatever, right? And he's in movies, and I'm just like, this is the best thing ever for our sport, right?
Well, this is the epitome of it. So we're in Vegas. We're getting ready to go party. And we come out, and MC looks at me and goes, RJ, you can't wear that shirt. Come with me. Takes me upstairs. Takes me upstairs and goes, throw that fucking cardigan or whatever you got in the trash and put this on. So he put me in this casino wear, and so I was smooth as could be. We go over to what's that, House of Blues over.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we knocked it out. Next thing you know, we're dancing. We're having a blast. I'm on the dance floor. Who's next to me? Ice-T.
Yeah.
So I'm like, these guys know how to do it right, man. I mean, they race hard, they play hard.
Right.
I love it. And so, as I said, you're absolutely right. I'm not offended by saying Jeremy was cooler than me, because, I mean, he's got balls and pierces nipples and have earrings.
Purple hair, blue hair. He shows up in a Supercross with blue hair. Like, Jesus.
Hey, but if you're winning every friggin' race, who cares?
I know.
What color your hair is.
Was RJ wearing his bomb suit, MC, or was he wearing Jetsons? Is that what the problem was? What he was wearing when he came out?
I'm trying to remember. I remember my friend Ryan Krupe was the one that did the casino wear, and he was a BMX dude. But
okay.
Remember how those shirts, all the buttons had cards on them? And when we were in Vegas, like Rick said, we did it up good. There was no one, at least we thought, no one was doing it better. So
at least we thought.
We had a good time. We danced our asses off, and we met a lot of cool people. And, to be able to be in a sporting life, but then to have someone to look up to like Rick, especially as an athlete, a friend, and someone that you could look to as a mentor. I mean, I remember the days when I first got to ride with Rick down in El Cajon, his track down there, which was, by the way, one of the gnarliest Supercross tracks you could ever ride on. I was just like, man, this is, I mean, to be able to just get the invite, I still remember the feeling today.
Right.
So, just to be able to look to a guy that just did it so well and set the bar for kind of choosing his own way to do it, it kind of allowed all of us. I mean, there was plenty of guys in my era that were having a great time and really enjoying riding. And that was a lot of that was due to Rick. I mean, because it just proved that, look, we could do things our own way and still have fun and still be good at racing. And
do you remember
forever it's not gonna, the mid '80s to the end of the '90s. There's not going to be any. Of course, I'm biased, but there's not going to be any better era of the sport that we love so much. No way.
I'm with you. It was pretty cool, and I'm sure you, like me, MC, watched that Profile of a Champion Palm Avenue video till it was worn out, right?
Pros at Practice and Play.
Yeah.
It was a video that was on a loop system at my house.
Yeah, for sure. MC, thanks for calling. I don't want to take too much of your time, but thank you, man. I appreciate you.
No worries. It's always good to talk to you guys. Rick, good to hear your voice, buddy.
MC, love you, brother.
Yeah, love you too. Have a good rest of the show.
Thank you.
And we'll catch up later. All right, guys.
Good. Thanks, Jeremy. All right, that's Jeremy McGrath, everybody. I was just texting with him, RJ, and I was like, hey, we're gonna have Rick on. Why don't you jump on? So.
Very cool. Thank you.
No worries. We'll wrap up with you here. Brought to you by Scotia.com. Rick Johnson, everybody. We got a boom bottle given away, signed by the Rockstar Energy Husky guys. So simply email us at contest@pulpamexshow.com, and we'll put your entry in for a Scotia boom bottle from those guys. A couple things, RJ. I love this question to a lot of the guys. I just talked to Stanton a little while ago about this and asked him. And so when you meet fans of yourself over the years, what do they want to talk to you about? Like, what comes up? Is it the wrist? Is it the USGP? Is it the Rodale Cup? the speech. Like, what do people want to talk to Rick Johnson about? What stories are you just like, well, here we go again, you know?
If I'm in Anaheim or anywhere around there, it's 1986 Anaheim.
Yeah.
You remember that, bro? Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember it.
Yeah.
I was there.
Right.
Got second, got my ass kicked, was out of shape, needed to make some changes,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. But here's the way I feel about it is that two ways. One is that if you admired me for what I did, or if you hated me for what I did, I respect you. You know what I mean? I've been punched in the face when I tried to do a parade lap with Bob Hanna out of respect, and one of his fans smashed me in the face. No, I'm dead serious, man. I kicked his ass. I smashed it. I crushed him at Unadilla.
Yep.
And so he's doing his like final lap. And so you know what? I go, you know what? I'm gonna show respect. I was actually riding behind him out of respect.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I saw a fist come out of the crowd and smack me so hard in the nose. I'm like, screw you, Bob Hanna. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I'm done with this. These crazy New Yorkers are too tough for me. But if I meant something to you and you want to chat, then we'll chat. I'm cool with it, and I don't get bothered by it. I feel sorry for the people that are with me, you know.
Yeah.
But so I'm not offended if you don't know me, and I'm not over the top at myself if you do. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think my level of celebrity is the right amount because, you know, occasionally I'll get recognized in the airport or something like this or like that, but 99.9% of the time, no one knows who I am because they're not looking for me. You know, they're not. If I'm at Anaheim or I'm at a race or something like that, those are those people, and they're looking for that type. You know, they're looking for that. But no, but I get a lot of Anaheim. I do. I don't get a ton of that. The one that I love is when people were at Mammoth in 1982. I think it was one of the greatest races that I ever had with Donnie Hansen. After I lost the championship, and we went back and forth for 45 minutes, and I was able to beat him. Yeah. But it was. I mean, literally, we passed each other twice a lap, and it was a phenomenal race. And I don't know if anybody has it on video, but I would love to. If any listener has 1982 250 race main event at Mammoth, I would love to see that.
John, did you go to Anaheim '86? Were you?
I was there. Yeah.
You were there.
Yep.
Yeah. What a race.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
It was something else.
The memories last a lifetime.
It's also crazy, RJ. One last thing. I can't believe, so JMB made history in '91, won all three classes, right? It was pretty amazing accomplishment. And I was thinking, '86, you win 2. Bailey beats you in the 500s. '87, you break your fingers. Well, you get knocked out, and then you break your fingers in Supercross, and you can't get that one, but you get the Nationals. '88, your radiator hose pops off your bike in 250s. You lose that title. Yep. You came so close to getting a triple, 3 straight years. So
exactly, and I did. The one that hurt the most was, getting knocked out and breaking the fingers and stuff. I can accept that. You know, and getting second to Bailey, I can accept that because he was phenomenal that year. But that was hard because I was leading. You know, I beat Jeff in the first moto, and then in the second moto I was leading, and not running away by any means. And I'm not taking anything from Morty. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that guy.
Yeah, he's an animal.
That guy's just a stud beyond. Look up the word stud. There's a picture of Wardy. But I had him that day, and then all of a sudden I heard it pinging, and I'm like, I screamed at Lunas, and and I just felt it started to tighten up, and then seize up on me, and I was like. It's hard when you do everything to prepare yourself, and the one that hurt the most is that it came loose and it spit water out in Daytona, and we told Honda, HRC that because it was glued and pressed in,
right?
And so that's the part that was like, we warned you about this, and now it bit us. So, but once again, taking nothing from JMB, the guy, we still chat today on whatever WhatsApp and stuff like that, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But let me leave you with a couple thoughts that I had.
Yeah.
One, Supercross. Please get rid of hole shot devices. Why do we have them if everybody has them?
Right.
We'd slow the guys down at least 10 miles an hour going into turn 1, and guys would make more mistakes off the gate, so not everybody.
Yeah, we'd have more separation. Yep.
We'd have more separation. That's one. And two, I know everybody wants to talk about the tradition and blah, blah, blah. This is a show, all right? If we don't have a good show, we don't need it. So two things. One is what happened with McAdoo. I think everybody was right. Kawasaki was right for getting him back on the line. Mm-hmm. Yamaha was right for arguing the point, all the different stuff, that the AMA needs to change that. If you, as a rider, cause a red flag, you're done. Okay? Because this goes back to original TT racing back in the day. Guys would fall down the first turn, and they would go, lay down, lay down, lay down, and they'll restart us. All right? Not that McAdoo didn't do that. I'm not claiming that at all. That kid was out of his gourd and had the shit beat out of him. Yep. And total kudos to him, Nick Way, his family, everything. And for that little kid, that he's not a little kid, but that man to get his ass up and go race the way he did, I can't believe it. He did it. But
I'm with you on this. Yeah, I'm with you.
All right.
Yep.
And here's the other thing. If you don't have a first turn pileup, all right, if there's not a first turn pileup with multiple guys, you stagger the start the way they start. That's bullshit that everybody has to. It is so gnarly to get a hole shot, and you go do it. Stagger them the way they did. I don't give a shit if it happens. If it doesn't happen in the first turn and not a multiple rider reason to stop the race, then they need to go to a staggered deal. And lastly, we need to implement a yellow flag at 10 minutes. Throw a yellow flag, someone comes around, you stagger them, and you go. You give the person that's leading the race 1 point for leading that. So you're going to want to try for the whole shot, and you want to do that. But if you do get a bad start, now the gap is there, and you're able to make it.
Or even 5 points. Even 5 points for leading half the main event.
No,
whatever.
1 point.
Okay, all right.
Here's 1 point, because here's why. So we did this in truck racing.
Yep.
Because now that guy still gets to start first. So if he's faster, he's going to take off. He doesn't have anybody in front of him. But Eli, we're going to use Eli for an example. Eli worked his way from 25th, or not 25th. There's only 22. He got that bad of a start. So from 14th makes it up to 4th, but he's still half a track behind. That puts him in the game, and we need to see racing to the checkered flag, and that's the thing that we're missing in this sport, because you work so hard. And I remember I fought it because I knew how hard I worked for hole shots, and it was nice to get a hole shot and be out in front and relax the last 4 laps. But guess what? Fans turn off the TV.
Well, Daniel, take that to Feld. I'm always on you, and I like some of these ideas.
I have a long list going for you, Steve. I haven't got to that yet with them, but I'll take this one straight to the top immediately. So sorry, Steve.
Because it's RJ. I get it.
Well, and he's right. My thought is it's meant to be entertainment, right?
Yep.
And sometimes the races, even the championship, becomes less entertaining because of certain traditions that we do have. So I these things that he's saying, these are new thoughts to me, and my first thought is, wow, let's explore it. Because seriously,
we did the Triple Crown. I think the Triple Crown worked.
There's a lot of things. I mean, I'm probably maybe in the minority on this, but the chase format. There's just a lot of things that I think need to be explored further to make this more entertaining all the time. Because sometimes we have a night that's not.
Yep.
And I want them all entertaining. And I think we could do it. I think things can be done. And for him to say that halfway through, finding a way to get them all back together, because sometimes, man, at the 10-minute mark, it's like, this one's over.
Yeah.
And that kind of sucks sometimes.
Some good ideas for sure. RJ, thank you, man. Thanks for picking up. Thanks for answering the text. Good luck with everything.
And Mathis, I got to give it. So a couple little smoke blowing on your guys' side. One, Daniel, keep doing what you're doing. Awesome. I love your input. I love your enthusiasm on all that stuff. I love where you're coming from. And Mathis, honestly, bro, how you have went from being a hack mechanic to the internet mogul that you are. And that's a joke. I'm being highly sarcastic. I'm so impressed to see. I love success stories, and to see what you've done with Pulp and all the different stuff is badass. So, dude, keep trying to be better.
Thanks. I will do that. Absolutely. Thanks, RJ. Thank you, man.
Thanks,
all right, guys.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
That's Rick Johnson, everybody. I'm done. I'm good.
I'm
I'm done.